Thought we'd do something a little bit different today. Normally you'd expect to see me do a workshop live, so a little bit different. Obviously we can build and play with anything we want, so it's only natural that you guys must think, well, what do the co-owners of Precision Golf play with? What's been the history of their game? Well, surely they must change their clubs every month. Well, we don't think it's the case, but actually we do tinker, and we have access to a lot of lovely products. So what do we play with? So I'm James, this is Simon. If you don't know us, we're co-owners. We've been in business since 2005. We're now a team of 14.
Going back to 14 in the new year.
Yeah, comprising of fitters, we have a chiropractor, a personal trainer, 2 coaches. Any questions, guys, do chip in. We'll be here for about 15-20 minutes. So we'll gradually work through all of the employees to see what they play with. Right, without further ado, let's start with my driver. Okay, you probably noticed the head cover. A Dodo head cover. Bit sentimental and behind this. So we host a trip to Beachcomber Paradis every year. It's really been on the back of a recommendation from good friend Tony Johnston, who I said to Tony, Tony, look, I want a really special, well, as we all do, honeymoon location. Where would you recommend? I mean, you've travelled a lot. He said, without doubt, Beachcomber Paradis. It has absolutely everything for honeymooners, couples, families. So I bought a Dodo head cover, and the reason why it's in the bag is because where I've got 2 children, very young, and when my eldest, when my daughter Annabelle came into this world, my son, who's 15 months older, couldn't say Annabelle, called her Dodo. So that's why the head cover stuck. Right, head cover off. This is my current driver, and I'll be honest with you, it's not going to be in the bag for much longer. My favourite driver I ever had was a Ping G400, which I think it was about 3 years ago. I was packing my bag to packing my clubs away, and I noticed a crack on the heel of my G400. So this was in the morning we were going to Mauritius. So I flew down to Precision Golf, picked up a G425 from our stock, popped the head on. At the time I had a TPT, would it have been 15?
It was one of the original series, yeah. It was
15?
one of the, no, a little lighter than that would have been, I think it's one of the, I think it's the 18. Yeah.
That equipment combination was absolutely incredible. Ping, not the longest head, but I felt like I could put any swing on that driver and I would find the fairway. Built the club, went out to Mauritius. Again, incredibly consistent across the face, very, very stable. A big one for me, I'm kind of there or thereabouts off the tee with Simon, but I was consistently 10, if not 15 yards behind him, and I knew it wasn't me because of where I had been normally with the G400. So the moment we got back, I decided, look, I need to be refit for a new driver because I wasn't happy with the always being first to play. So Simon fit me with, well, actually initially with this head, with the TPT shaft. But unfortunately, due to a member of staff trying to see how hard they could load it, and with unfortunately a known issue with the first generation TPTs, it broke over his shoulder. So I never actually got to hit that combination on the course. So I had to find an alternative. And Simon fitted me into Ventus Blue, the 5 stiff. Have to say, it feels incredible. A very, very smooth shaft. Would you agree that it's quite a neutral profile?
Yeah, so in the TPT, very, very even weight profile, was really smooth, very kind of responsive feel, and that worked with the Ping head. And actually the reason for going for the Mavrik was actually to get a bit of spin down. So Mavrik head was good. James isn't a high ball hitter, strong grip, turns the loft down a little bit. So the Mavrik head helped to keep a little bit of launch, but keep the spin down. So it got, when it goes, it created really, really strong performance. And so, as we'll see throughout the set, for James, anything that gets too tip heavy creates big shots dispersion because he has a little bit of a reroute on the way down, which then too tip heavy gets stuck behind him, opens the face up, and then it's hard to square it. So there's a big miss right and a big miss left in there. So,
in terms of ball speed, this was crazy good. And when it's on, it's on. But I play maybe 18 times a year. And for me, I just need a little bit more reassurance at a slight off-centre strike. For me, it just feels like anything off-centre, there's very little MOI on the head. It's either left or right. But with the ping, it just felt so consistent across the face. Obviously, there's a new model coming out from Ping early January. That will be on my hot list to try. Almost certainly with this shaft, because I mean I can't fault the shaft. So hopefully it'll be out with this head in with the new one. Obviously we can't talk about any other heads coming to market. I will test some more, but for me in my game and the amount of times I play, I think I'd prefer to sacrifice 5 to 10 yards to find the fairway every single time, because it helps when you're playing your second shot from the fairway.
he still wants to keep playing in first.
Well, next, fairways, a slightly older models. I've gone, I say 3 and 5, but there's a story behind that. Where are we? Right, Ping G410. Now, this is my 3 and 5 wood, but I actually play a 5 and a 7 wood because I initially bought. I was fitted by Mark. I initially built the 3 and the 5, but the 3 was going too far, so I've dropped the 3, kept the 5 as my 3. I kept it in the standard loft settings, but I thought, well, this 5 is great. I wonder what 7 wood's like. I mean, I'm 44, I'm not too old, but tell you what, having a 7 wood in the bag where that's slightly bit shorter and it has such a great strong flight. This is essentially a 3 and 5 wood.
Well, for you, because you turn the loft down, that's where the 3 came out just too low spin, and so ended up not being enough differentiation. Certainly not a fairway club. So, and we're doing a lot more in terms of after driver, 4 or 6 woods or 5 or 7 woods to create 3 and 5 wood flights. So for the James, the ping heads, whilst they're very forgiving and shallower, they're not high launching heads. So actually by using that head, you can get a little bit more loft. Turn the loft down. We turn the loft down. Turn the loft down a little bit. So
yeah, on these 7 wood, we went big minus, which is
about a degree and a half down.
Yeah.
So the 5 wood at 17.5 degrees, and then that's more like kind of 19.5 now. But to get the spin and the launch windows in the right place, to get a balance of shot, and also a little bit more loft for Jones keeps it a fairway club, so more playable off the ground.
So 3 wood, I could comfortably carry 235, 240. My 5 wood, or the 7 wood, is about a 225 carry comfortably. Shaft, Oban, Ian, thanks for tuning in. Currently 6.1. Rusty.
Match play about 4, stroke play about 8.
Yeah. My game is made up of maybe 3 birdies, an eagle putt, a few lost balls. Let's move on to the next. Right. Oban Devotion HB, high balance, 75 grams stiff. Now, when Mark initially fit me, he said, I think we need to move you into a slightly heavier shaft. But I thought, look, 75 grams is too heavy for me. But actually, this high balance shaft swings so incredibly easy. It doesn't feel like a 75 gram shaft at all. Maybe Simon, you can explain why.
Yeah, so you still need some weight to pull against. So it's not a case of not needing the dead weight there, but as we said earlier, the moment anything gets bottom end weighted towards the tip for James, it because of a little bit of that change in direction, it gets a little bit steeper on the backswing and then drops it in at the start of the downswing. If you go bottom end heavy, then the club head really drops behind, so he struggles to control the face. So by using the the kind of high balance shaft, it means that the bottom end doesn't get away from him, so he can use the weight and still gets a very strong strike out of it, but it doesn't swing as heavy. So it's really about keeping the club head from getting too detached. And that's hence a consistency through the set with these. Driver the Ventus is not a counterbalance, but it's not a tip heavy shaft. And as you go through the set, we'll see that continue. So it's all about not letting the club head get separated.
So driver head's going, driver shaft is staying. These are staying in the bag. I have no intention of changing these at all. These are incredible clubs for me. So these, you can stay for a bit longer. There we go, you can go over there. Right, next. This next club is, if somebody tried to get this out of my hands, I'd break the knuckles. It is my go-to club. If I want to hit anything off the deck, maybe 215, 220, off the tee, in links conditions when I play at Brancaster and Hunstanton every year, hope for my old school reads. This is quite possibly the best club I've ever had, and it gives me the confidence to get it out there, 230 off the tee, in any occasion really, obviously not into the wind, but it's a driving iron by Gimar. If you tuned into our live, and obviously do check our content, we did a live with Gianni Martinelli, who's a Swiss forging consultant. This is their NRB3. If you look at the wide sole, it's very much like the old Big Bertha 2 ones, the original ones.
Yeah.
I actually sometimes don't even tee this up, because when I tee it up, I get a terrible strike, really high on the face. So actually, I'd prefer to just rough the turf up and just hit this off the grass, off the tee. The strength of the flight is incredible. They only do one model, one loft in this driving iron, and you crank it depending on I'd probably say what distance you like to achieve rather than...
Oh, it's a launch and spin. Yeah.
So this is my 3-iron. My grip's the same as Simon. No, believe it or not, I've got even smaller hands, short fingers, long arms, short pockets. No, these are VDR. I think I've even gone to a...
Although James will have to change at some point in the future because they stopped making these.
Yeah. Standard one layer on my clubs. I did look at, I thought, because my miss was a left, I thought by maybe trying a +4 would help with a little bit of excessive hand rotation. It turns out I needed a lesson. And I did actually find that, for me, the +4 in the bottom hand started to aggravate my knuckle and forefinger, because I just couldn't really, I couldn't get the grip that I can with these now. And
well, some of that would have been being bigger in the bottom hand. If your finger doesn't get all the way around it, like we looked at on the recent grip video, you have to actually grip tighter to stop your hand slipping off. So for that one being a little bit too big in the bottom hand for James, it just meant you had to hold on hard, so all the pressure goes into the knuckles and so it can slip around a little bit. So just say creates tension.
But these days, whenever I have a really good round, and after I've played a few rounds on the trot, I'm sure like we all do, I just write down just swing thoughts and grip thoughts, and especially in my wedges, because that bottom hand is really quite small, it really allows me to pinch the thumb and forefinger just to feel like I'm almost like throwing a dart when I'm hitting short irons in. Right, head's amazing. I do have another one of these which I could potentially build for a 2-iron, but to be honest, there's not sufficient yardage between them to warrant another one of these, and I don't have any room in the bag anyway for another club.
I also think if you took the loft down from it, it already is basically a 2-iron flight.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of crossover with the 7-wood with this, but a very different job that it does. So with the distance James hit, this is a very useful off the tee shot, or when it's windy, very reliable kind of flatter distance swing. So whereas the the 7 wood gives height and a soft landing shot. So if you're playing into a par 5 or into anything with a bunker short, the 7 wood's the shot. If it's into wind or if there's nothing, you can run it in, then this is the shot. So there's a little bit of overlap, but very different jobs.
We'll come back to the shaft on this because it's essentially, this is my strong 3-iron, but it's a different shaft to my irons for a reason. So for my 40th, 4 years ago, I decided to treat myself to a new set, which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love these clubs, and honestly, there's no need to change them, but we're in the business. It's nice to build new toys every now and again. I have a set of PXG 0311Ps, 4-through pitching wedge.
Second gen, Gen 2.
Yeah, Gen 2 with Steelfiber I-110 constant weight stiff.
Constant weight is, and what that defines is where there are what we call discrete lengths. So there's a 3-iron, 4-iron, 5-iron shaft, 6-iron shaft. So we're on just a blank parallel, which you trim to length. These ones are specific to the head, so they get very, very, very slightly heavier through the set, which is exactly what 99% of steel shafts do. If you take a parallel and trim it, then the longer shaft in the long iron is going to be heavier than the shorter length in the short iron, so you get a descending mass, which isn't ideal from a control point of view. So where possible, we'll always use the constant weight series.
Mark, thank you very much. Should set up in Scotland one day, but Scott's up there. Right, 110 grams might, well, for me it seems like a very, very heavy graphite shaft. I mean, Kuchar plays with this one, does he?
Yeah, it's one you, Brant Snedeker, Matt Kuchar. I mean, from a composite point of view, they go all the way up to 125, 130. I mean, look at 135 like Bryson plays. But you don't see many heavier than this because there's so much material in the shaft. So in a steel shaft, you're looking at about a quarter of the amount of actual material in the wall of the shaft. So what you tend to get with graphites in a heavy, or composites in a heavier weight, is they're a much firmer, some would call it a deader feel. They're a very, very firm, stout setup. So that's where you tend to see graphite from anything up to about 90, 95 grams, and then steel above that. It's purely the structural rigidity.
So not monofilament, these filament wound composite shafts, I think it's something like 54 miles of steel fibre filament per shaft, or?
Well, it's an. I'm not. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact total. I remember it's
multiple. Hang on.
Multiple miles.
We have a. Yeah, Simon, move. Cool. Okay, we need to change the lights in this meeting room. We've clearly been on air 20 minutes, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, whilst it's a very, very heavy graphite shaft, they feel really, really smooth and not difficult to load. Just a lovely constant feel throughout. So when I built these clubs, I was being so meticulous about head weight, shaft frequency, swing weight, grip weight. I mean, as you see in my workshop videos, I weigh all the grips. I designate a grip to a particular club, so I know that when you've come to installing the grip, it's not going to throw swing weight out. I can't tell you how perfectly these clubs came out, as do all of our clubs, but this for me was a really, really exciting build, having the facilities we've got. And when I finally came to swing with them, on paper, they were absolutely perfect. However, when it came to do the final lie check with Simon, I said, Simon, look, something's not right, because on paper they are absolutely perfect. But the 8 and 9 iron it just feels like a bit of a dead, clunky strike. And Dr. Simon was very quick to identify that the 8 and 9, whilst perfect on paper, needed a very, very small amount of additional head weight. Now, to pick the clubs up and waggle them, and we're talking maybe half a gram max, just to up the swing weight by a quarter to half a point. To pick them up and waggle them, couldn't feel the difference. Even really during the swing, I couldn't feel the difference. But I could definitely feel, and all other golfers that have equally the same lack of feel that I've got, the strike was instantly better. I put it down to it being a bad strike. But I thought, well, it can't be a bad strike because I'm flushing the 4, 5, 6, 7 and wedge, but the 8 and 9 was just a bit of a clunky strike. So a little bit more head weight on the 8 and 9, and they've been perfect ever since. To be honest, the faces aren't really showing much wear, which is not surprising given the amount I play. So what do I want to change to? Well, that's, you know, we're gonna tee ourselves up for a fitting in the new year when some new irons have come out. I'll be very interested to see if, because I mean, I obviously were fit for these shafts 4 years ago. See if anything else has come out that'll beat these, and the heads. So I've liked to play with things a little bit different. I had my eye on the Moore irons because I don't know. I'd like to try them.
Pretty unique.
Pretty unique.
Pretty unique.
So I had my eye on the Moore irons. Definitely the i230s from Ping. I would never thought I'd even think about playing a Ping club. It's nothing personal. It's just, I don't know.
You grow up playing certain brands. You grow up with every brand's got an own identity, and sometimes you buy into that or don't buy into that, and we all do it.
Hey, look, I never thought I'd play a Ping driver, and yeah, I cry at night sometimes thinking about that old driver. So yeah, i230s maybe, more. I would go back into a Miura club head in a heartbeat. I think for my build, I need my swing weight for my 6-iron down around about D1. Whether or not that's achievable with the Miura head weights is debatable with this shaft weight and a relatively standard weight grip. If I could move into a Miura, I definitely would. The best ever irons I ever owned were CB201s back in the non-conforming days. They were just incredible. Made even more special because Simon and I were possibly two of the very first outsiders to visit the Miura Foundry back in probably 2007. We got to spend a week with Mr. Miura and his two sons. Just blown away by the culture over there, and just I'd never been that far east, and I was truly humbled by not only the country but Mr. Miura and his family's hospitality.
We were also humbled by the jet lag on the second day as well.
Oh, honestly, we thought 11, 12 hours east. First night, smashed it, absolutely fine. Second night,
shocking.
One beer, and I hit a brick wall.
It's like the off switch had been flicked.
Yeah. That's the irons.
But again, I mean, steel fibre shafts, again, it's that same, going back to one of the comments about shafts earlier, James has still got a very strong swing, he has that bit of rotation in. So where these are very good is they get the weight in relative to iron shafts, you'd be looking anything from, generally speaking, sort of 50 grams to 135. So they're in a kind of upper mid weight range, but very stable without being bottom end heavy. So again, you can get lots of rigidity, lots of control in the club head, but without them swinging heavy. So you think of the two players James mentioned earlier, Matt Kuchar and Brant Snedeker in particular. Brant Snedeker is very kind of body rotation. There's no real arm pull. It's very dead arm. So anything too heavy, you get stuck in behind. He's used them well. And again, Kuchar gets it kind of out in front of him. He needs to get the club back out in front for it again, not to get stuck, because he's got that sort of flatter looking swing. So both consistencies where with James, again, we don't want it stuck in behind. So hence, that as a profile works very well for that style of player.
Thank you, Mark. 59 miles.
59 miles, yeah.
There you go. I knew it was in the 50s. Wedges. I play two Miura. What are these Tour Grinds?
Yeah, these are the milled CNC milled Tour.
So I
Tour
have a
series, the not the high bounce, the neutral
52,
bounce.
which I've stumped with my first child's nickname as he was being born, Bumble. And a 58 Squish. There we go. I don't think I'll ever build anything other than Miura wedges for a variety of reasons. I love the consistent flight and spin control. I love the shape. I love the brand. They suit my eye. And there's no reason for me to want to move away. They stopped producing the Y and the
C and the Y grind.
C grinds a few years ago. I don't know. Are they coming back in?
They are going to be doing more with wedges in the hopefully near future. That's certainly an area they're conscious of being a little bit fewer options than they would like.
So I mean, unless they come out with a another model, I mean, I'm going to stick with these heads. 52 and 58. I've always carried 2 wedges, and I have a full yardage and what I feel like is a 12 o'clock yardage with each club. That suits me down to the ground, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you've got not overcomplicating the wedge game has always been a good thing for James. He's very, I think, kind of if too much loft will just pop the ball straight up in the air. So better to have fewer wedges and kind of almost sort of fewer options in some respects being a good thing, because it stops you kind of going, well, do I use that or that? Or,
yeah.
It's obvious which the right club is. Actually, keeping it simple really works well for James' wedge game. And these are they're a KBS wedge shaft. So.
The Modus.
Sorry, Modus, getting myself confused.
Modus 120.
120s.
Yep, standard installation, so using the 37-inch shaft. I think at one point I had steel fibers in these, and there was a reason why. I probably just wanted to tinker again.
Well, I think originally steel fibers you originally just matched through, but then the Modus are about 6 or 7 grams heavier, so slightly heavier than the steel fibers, but into the wedges where it's a shorter swing, that's where, whereas for a full swing, if the club gets behind, James is in trouble. A shorter swing actually needing a little bit of feel for the bottom end, just help with the chipping in the short game. So slightly softer feel as well.
Yeah, certainly don't feel harsh. About 10 years ago I used to play with KBS 120 in my wedges. Actually, I played them in the irons as well. Maybe I'm getting a bit older, but
more experienced.
I just felt the KBS Tour 120s just felt a bit bawdy compared to these for me. But as you know, we're all different. Right, so let's move these irons out of sight. Now, the ugliest club in my bag, which again, I've got one of these in wrapped up in cotton wool because they don't make it anymore. Again, I wanted to try something different. We were at the PGA show about 4 or 5 years ago, and we met with Gerin Reif, who was talking about the EvnRoll ER9. Let me show you. So,
affectionately known as the Starship Enterprise at the time.
So behind Gerin on the wall, they had a 20-foot poster or billboard with the ER9, and in the bottom it says warning, not actual size. So the only thing I've done differently is I've laser etched my children's names on the bottom. I'm never going to change this for a variety of reasons. I just feel like no matter where I hit it on the face stays square, which would explain the MOI actually coming into effect. I did look, the first time I actually realised how good MOI is when I tried to move back to a more shallower blade, to a Scotty or it could have been even more shallower than that. And some might say, well, learn to find the middle of the putter more efficiently. A slight misstrike, and I sacrificed distance and feel. It felt like the toe either stayed open or the toe shut over. My forte, my strength is distance putts, and I feel that it's because the further I take the putter back, the greater chance there's going to be of a misstrike. The face just stays square. As a result, it's imparting more energy into the ball than it would with a putter that has less MOI. And okay, if my alignment, if my direction of the putt is slightly off, I'm pin high nearly all the time, and it's useful to have the ability to get within 3 or 4 feet from a very long putt. But some might argue my approach shot should be closer.
Well, that's probably been that one's probably made the biggest difference to your game. So James, in a round of golf playing a more blade style putter, would have 2 or 3 putts around where the first putt, the distance putt, would come up. Nose to be short, nose to be long. And as someone who has played a lot of match play golf against James over the years, I've wanted to break that putter on a number of occasions because the amount of the difference it made from those distance putts in terms of getting pin high, as James said, getting hole high, just very rarely ever 3 putts anymore. And it's been incredibly noticeable between playing, say, more traditional, when you had a TP Mills blade before, and then moved to this. It's literally night and day. And so it was never really the directional issues on the longer putts. It was always pace control. And this with the extremity of the weighting at the back, as I just made a vast difference to James's ability to 2-putt from range, and I've lost a lot more matches since that putter came.
Long may it continue. Couple of questions here. Would you consider Gimar irons for your next set? Sounds like you're loving the driving iron. Yes.
Well, there's a product
potentially coming out allegedly
yeah.
that I would like to test. So watch this space. That'll be in the mix. Rhythmic Discipline, thank you for your comment. Great discussion, guys. Talking of wedges and floaty flights, has Simon observed any notable differences between SM8 and SM9 in terms of flight?
No. In a word. At the bottom line, with anything they do with the wedges, between SM8 and SM9, it's a bit like between any of the brands, sort of one generation on. The only way you're going to change flight is the centre of gravity is not moving far enough to really tangibly change the ball flight. And it's so close to the back of the ball that really the only thing you're going to see that changes ball flight is loft and technique. And they're so limited on what they can do with the face tech and the tread. So it's incredibly minimal, the differences now on effectively a one-piece blade head to change the actual launch and spin dramatically versus what's gone before. We'd have to either be an illegal club head or you'd have to or it'd be a different loft. It's just not going to be. They will always make claims because they might change the launch angle by 0.1, 0.2 of a degree. They might get 100, 150, 200 revs more spin. But in the grand scheme of things, it's very, very, very small. And the thing that's going to make the most difference is going to be technique to flight. That's the 100% truth.
Ian, have I tried the Lab Mezzi or Metzi 1? No, I haven't. I don't feel like I want to explore a different putter because I'm really happy with this one. We did speak with the crazily fascinating engineer of Lab putters at the PGA show about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it could have been at the same show. I mean, if you haven't seen the concept of the way the shaft goes through the grips and the way the head presents itself, I mean, they look wrong, but they do perform. They perform incredibly well. I don't know. I'm in no rush to try anything else.
I think the thing with the Lab putters is that any of the torque balance putters, the principle's great, but as with anything, there is no one size fits all. So if there was, every single tour player would be playing a torque balance putter if it cured everything. So the principle's great and that takes out any influence from the gearing of the head around the shaft, but we all exert some kind of torque on the grip, and I know that Phil Kenyon would say the same thing. Paul Hurry and Mike, a putter coach, have had long discussions about this, and it's not going to suit everybody. So I over-rotate the face through the stroke, so torque balance for me will just allow me to over-rotate it. I need some toe hang. It's not as simple as you get a putter that is designed to stay online and it stays online. It unfortunately doesn't work in that way. But as with like the shapes of the Lab putters, some people just won't line them up as well as conventional shapes. Others will line them up better. Some will get great results with it, some won't. So as with anything, the technology is always, it's great when you get a development like the lab putters or any of the torque balance ones, but always make sure it's going to work for you, because there is no cure-all in anything.
Grip. So I thought the highest MOI head on the market. Oh, I wonder what sticking the highest MOI grip on the market would do as well. So Guerin developed a, what was it called?
The gravity grip.
The gravity grip, with a gravity core, which was a 30 or 40 gram steel rod that ran down the back of the grip to reduce twisting. I gave it a go, and yeah, wasn't for me. And I think it was mainly because the size of the grip. For me, the right hand being too big removed all feel and distance, ability to hit to a distance. I really didn't like it. So
I think the other bit of it, the gravity grip is a very heavy grip. So you think, that grip there is a 65, 70 gram. Most putter grips are somewhere between 60 and 80 grams.
Pistol GT Tour.
Whereas the gravity grip's 125. So you're putting extra, the steel rod, the extra 40 odd grams up the back end, and that changes the balance, it changes the swing weight. 40 grams will change the swing weight by 7 or 8 points. So that's, the size might not quite feel right. The shape is much more about feel. If you're front hand low, so if your right hand left below right, generally a taperless grip tends to fit that bottom hand nicely, but actually the shape is more about feel in the hands. The weight and what it does to the balance, that's really, I think, it not feeling comfortable because it was a bit big for James as one element, but that counterbalance in the putter really didn't help losing the feel for the head. So
I think that is pretty much it. What would we been on for? Crikey, 36 minutes. The light's going to go out soon, not because we haven't paid the bills. Hope you like this. It was a little bit different. We will do a what's in the bag. Actually, we could probably do the same thing with Simon. We've got a lot planned over the next few weeks in the run up to Christmas. A lot to film as well. But we'll start doing what's in the bags with other members of staff. Our staff range from plus golfers through to very occasional golfers. So it'll be an interesting mix of bags. Please do like, subscribe, hit the bell icon